And then finally, from a purely marketing perspective, video just converts better.
Yeah.
There was a stat in there that 84% of consumers were convinced to buy something after watching a video.
Wow, 84%.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's a really compelling
A lot.
argument for video.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got some really interesting stuff to dig into today. Specifically, we've got this piece by Anthony ATAMA.
Yeah.
And it's from Emergent Marketing Trends called, I Tried Video for Online Marketing. Here's What Blew Up. So, we see all this stuff about video marketing.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is go a bit deeper, right? What can we actually pull out of this that people can use?
Exactly.
What are the real insights that people can take and apply to their own thing?
Absolutely. And, it is so easy to just get completely overwhelmed with all of the advice out there about marketing.
Right.
And especially about video marketing.
Yeah.
So what we're going to try to do today is sort of give you the shortcut based on someone who's actually done it. And really highlight two things that I thought were really interesting.
Okay.
One is really understanding how different types of videos function and what results they drive.
Okay.
And then the other thing is just this idea that you need to focus to really see growth much more quickly.
Right. Focus your efforts.
Yeah.
And obviously, ultimately, all of this is about making money.
Of course. Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. Why video? I mean, we all know video is important.
Yeah.
But at the core, what is it about video that really grabs our attention?
Yeah, it's like a biological thing almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the article mentions a few key reasons.
Okay.
And the first one is that it just commands attention.
Right.
In a way that static content just really can't.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you're scrolling through your feed,
Yep.
the motion, the possibility of sound,
Yeah.
something about a video makes you stop.
Right.
Whereas you might just completely scroll past a static image.
Totally.
The other thing that is really, really interesting is that video builds trust
Oh, interesting.
almost instantly.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because you can see someone's facial expressions. You can hear their tone of voice.
Right.
And it kind of activates the same parts of your brain that are working when you're assessing trustworthiness.
So it's
in real life.
It's like a face-to-face kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you get that with video.
Interesting.
You don't get that with text.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And then beyond just, that human element,
Yeah.
all of the platforms now prioritize video content.
Okay.
Algorithms tend to favor it. And that's because watch times tend to be longer.
Right.
Engagement tends to be higher.
Makes sense.
Which signals to the platform that this is good stuff.
Right.
And then finally, from a purely marketing perspective, video just converts better.
Yeah.
There was a stat in there that 84% of consumers were convinced to buy something after watching a video.
Wow. 84%.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's a really compelling
A lot.
argument for video.
Yeah.
Now, what about the length of videos? We hear a lot about short form content.
Yeah.
What does the article have to say about that?
So the article does highlight that short videos, specifically under 60 seconds,
Okay.
tend to get more engagement on social media.
Makes sense.
And that's just because things are so fast-paced on those platforms.
Right.
You really have a very short window to capture someone's attention.
Yep.
So short videos are great for that,
Yeah.
but it's not a hard and fast rule.
Right.
Longer form content can be very valuable,
Okay.
especially for things like, building deeper connections, providing more in-depth information.
Yeah.
Especially on a platform like YouTube.
Right.
Which we shouldn't forget is the second most visited website globally.
It's massive.
Huge.
Yeah.
People spend a ton of time there, so
Yeah.
that's an opportunity.
Okay, so video is obviously important. We've established that there are different lengths for different purposes.
Yeah.
What about the different types of videos? Because I feel like sometimes it's just overwhelming.
It is. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can go.
Yeah.
So the article breaks down a few different types.
Okay, let's go through them.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so the first one is talking head videos. What are those all about?
So talking head videos are exactly what they sound like.
Okay.
It's you talking directly to the camera.
Right.
And they're really good for building a personal brand.
Okay.
You think coaches sharing advice,
That's
educators explaining concepts,
Right.
influencers sharing insights.
Makes sense.
The article gave some examples like, a 5 Instagram marketing hacks video.
Okay.
Or just, a daily tip on TikTok or Reels,
Right.
something like that.
Right. Just straight to camera.
Yeah, and the barrier to entry is really low.
Okay.
Good lighting, a tripod,
Yeah.
your smartphone even.
You can do it.
You can do it, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then there's faceless videos, right?
Yeah.
So for people like me who are a little camera shy,
Exactly.
what are those all about?
Yeah, so faceless videos are perfect for people who don't want to be on camera.
Okay.
And it's essentially you're using things like animations, stock footage, even text-based visuals.
Okay.
And you're using a voiceover.
So you don't have to show your face.
No, you don't have to show your face.
Nice.
And there are a lot of tools out there that can help you with this.
Okay.
The article mentioned Canva for creating text-based videos.
Yeah.
Doodly for those whiteboard animations.
Right.
And Pictory, which uses AI to help you create these faceless videos.
Oh, wow.
So these are great for bloggers who want to repurpose content.
Okay.
Shy creators.
Yeah.
But really anyone who just wants to get their content out there without, putting their face on camera.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And a good example of this would be like a whiteboard animation explaining how to start a business with $0.
Okay.
Something like that.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have green screen videos,
Yeah.
which seem a little more complicated.
A little more complicated, yeah.
What's the benefit of that?
So green screen videos give you a much more polished and versatile look.
Okay.
So you're essentially recording yourself in front of a green backdrop.
Right.
And then you can digitally replace that with any image or video that you want.
Oh, cool.
During editing.
So that's how people do like
That's how they do it.
the news and stuff
Yeah.
with the graphics behind them.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So this is really great for educators, tech explainers,
Yeah.
anyone who needs to demonstrate something visually.
Okay.
So imagine like a behind the scenes presentation.
Right.
With slides appearing behind you.
Yeah.
Or, you're breaking down a software interface.
Right.
And you have screen recordings integrated into the background.
Very cool.
Yeah. You will need a physical green screen for this.
Okay.
And some editing software like CapCut iMovie or Adobe Premiere Pro.
All right. So a little bit more of a learning curve with that one.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, cool. What about reaction videos?
Oh, reaction video.
Those are huge right now.
They are huge.
What is the deal with those?
So reaction videos are all about tapping into what's current,
Okay.
what's trending. So essentially you're reacting to, viral videos, news in your industry, other relevant content.
All right.
And you're just offering your perspective, your commentary.
Right. Or just being funny.
Or just being funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And this can be super engaging.
Yeah.
And it's often used by influencers to kind of join conversations and reach a wider audience.
Okay.
And a lot of the platforms have features that make this really easy to do.
Like what?
Like TikTok has Duet and Stitch.
Right.
Instagram Reels has its own remix features.
Yep.
YouTube Shorts has similar things.
Cool.
So, imagine you're reacting to a marketing campaign that went viral.
Okay.
Or you're analyzing an algorithm update.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Cool.
And you can really just use basic editing tools to,
Just to cut it together.
Yeah, cut it together, trim things, add your reactions.
All right. Very cool. Then we have interview videos.
Yeah.
So what's the value of those?
So interview videos are amazing for building authority and credibility because you're bringing on experts, thought leaders, successful clients.
Right.
So you're essentially borrowing their expertise.
Yeah.
And you're adding weight to your own content.
Right.
So this format's really good for podcasters.
Yeah.
Business owners who are trying to position themselves as thought leaders.
Makes sense.
And, anyone who just wants to provide diverse perspectives
Okay.
to their audience.
Yeah.
You'll typically need tools like Zoom
Okay.
for this, a good microphone for clear audio.
Right.
And obviously you'll need editing software.
Right.
The article mentioned the example of like an interview with an entrepreneur
Okay.
who scaled their business to $1 million in a year.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of content provides a lot of value and social proof.
Yeah. Learning from someone else's experience is really valuable.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have podcast videos.
Yes.
Which is essentially what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
So what's involved in creating those?
So podcast videos are taking your audio podcast
Okay.
and repurposing it into a video format.
Right.
So you can upload the full episode to YouTube, or you can create, shorter clips for platforms like TikTok and Reels.
Okay.
And this allows you to reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
people who prefer to watch rather than just listen.
Right.
And it just kind of extends the life of your content.
Makes sense.
You'll need recording software for this, like Riverside or Zoom.
Right.
Audio editing software to make sure your audio sounds good.
Yeah.
Things like Audacity or Adobe Audition.
Okay.
And then video editing software to add,
Yeah.
visuals, captions, create those shorter clips.
Right.
Things like CapCut or Final Cut Pro.
Cool. All right. So a whole bunch of different types of videos.
Yeah.
All serving slightly different purposes.
Exactly.
The article then lays out this daily posting strategy.
Okay.
And it's 1 long-form video and 4 short-form videos every single day.
It sounds like a lot.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind that?
So the thinking behind this is that the 1 long-form video,
Okay.
that's your cornerstone content,
Okay.
right? And it's best suited for a platform like YouTube.
Yeah.
It's the kind of content that can really dive deep into a topic,
Right.
establish your expertise,
Okay.
and it has the potential to rank in search results over time.
So it's evergreen content
Yeah, it's evergreen content.
that keeps bringing people back.
Exactly. And then the 4 short-form videos,
Okay.
those are all about capturing attention.
Okay.
They're going to be on platforms like Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts.
Yep.
And they're tapping into those trending topics.
Okay.
They're increasing your chances of going viral.
Makes sense.
So it's kind of like casting a wider net.
Yeah.
And the article actually provides a sample daily schedule.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So people can actually see how this might work.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the key to making this actually doable
Yeah.
is repurposing, right? You take that long form content and you break it down into
Yeah.
those shorter pieces.
That's the key to efficiency
Yep.
with this strategy, is repurposing.
Okay.
So you're investing your core creative energy into that 1 long form piece.
Right.
And then you're extracting, shorter, punchier segments from that.
Okay.
And, that saves you a ton of time.
Right.
Compared to creating 5 brand new videos every day.
Totally makes sense. Now, what about tools?
Tools.
What do you need to actually make all these videos?
Yeah, so the article gives a really good rundown of some essential tools.
Okay.
So for filming and editing software, they recommend CapCut for beginners.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that.
It's good, yeah.
And then what about if you're a Mac user?
If you're a Mac user, iMovie
iMovie.
is a good step up.
And then professional level?
Professional level, Adobe Premiere Pro.
Adobe Premiere. Okay.
And then InShot
Yeah.
is good for quick and easy edits on your phone.
All right, so a lot of different options depending on your skill level.
Exactly, yeah.
What about audio?
Audio is crucial.
Super important.
Super important, yeah.
What do they recommend there?
So for smartphones, they recommend a lavalier microphone.
Okay.
It's one of those little clip-on mics.
Okay.
And that's going to give you much clearer audio than just using your phone's built-in microphone.
Right.
And then for podcasting and interviews, they recommend the Blue Yeti.
Yeah, the Blue Yeti is a classic.
That's a classic, yeah.
It's a good mic.
And then finally, they mentioned some apps for, just quicker creation.
Okay.
So Pictory, we talked about that earlier.
Right, the AI one.
Yeah, for those AI faceless videos.
Yeah.
Canva for creating animated videos.
Yeah.
And then, the built-in editors in TikTok and Instagram Reels.
Right. Those are good for like quick edits.
Yeah, for those quick edits.
Okay, awesome. So now moving on, let's talk about actually making videos that convert.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately the goal, right?
That's the goal.
So the article talks about this conversion-focused video pyramid.
Yeah.
What is that all about?
So the video content pyramid is this really interesting model.
Okay.
And it essentially aligns different types of video content with different stages of the customer journey.
Okay.
So you've got the top of the pyramid.
Right.
That's where people are just becoming aware of you.
Right.
Then you've got the middle. That's where people are considering you.
Okay.
And then the bottom of the pyramid. That's
Right.
where people are actually taking action.
Making a purchase.
Yeah. Making a purchase.
Right.
So the idea is to create the right type of video for each stage
Okay.
to kind of nurture that audience along.
Yeah, and get them down to that bottom level.
Exactly.
Okay, so at the top of the pyramid,
Yeah.
what are the kinds of videos we should be making?
So at the top of the pyramid where it's all about awareness,
Yep.
you want to be creating really short, engaging content.
Okay.
Things like Reels,
Right.
introductory explainer video. These are great for your homepage, for YouTube intro ads, for social media ads.
Okay.
And the key here is to keep things really clear and concise.
So short and sweet.
Short and sweet, yeah.
Okay.
Keep those videos under 90 seconds.
Right.
And really focus on the core pain points
Right.
that your audience is experiencing and how you solve those problems.
So give them the solution.
Yeah, give them the solution.
Okay.
A good example would be like a short animated video explaining how a new software platform
Right.
can help automate invoices for freelancers.
Okay.
Something like that.
So really targeted and specific.
Very targeted, very specific.
Okay, I like it. So moving down the pyramid
Yeah.
into the consideration stage,
Yeah.
what kinds of videos work well there?
So in the consideration stage, people are starting to explore solutions.
Okay.
So you want to provide valuable information
Right.
and really build trust.
Yeah.
So the article highlights tutorial and how-to videos.
Yeah.
As well as product demos and walkthroughs.
Right. Oh,
So tutorial videos are great for establishing your authority.
makes sense.
You're teaching people something.
Yep.
You know how to solve a problem.
Right.
These are often hosted on YouTube
Okay.
or embedded on your blog.
Yeah.
Product demos and walkthroughs are all about showing your product in action.
Okay.
Really highlighting the benefits.
Right. Showing how it works.
Exactly.
Cool.
And for both of these types of videos, the advice is to optimize your titles for search.
Oh, yeah. So people can find you.
So people can find you.
Yeah.
Always include captions.
Right. For accessibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for demos, really focus on the positive outcomes
Okay.
and always include a call to action.
Right. Tell people what to do next.
Exactly.
Okay. So provide value and show them how you can help.
Exactly.
Awesome. And then finally, the bottom of the pyramid, the conversion stage.
Yeah. Might I make
What types of videos are going to drive action?
Okay. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you really want to focus on building confidence,
Okay.
providing that final push.
Yeah.
So the article emphasizes testimonials and UGC.
User-generated content.
Yes. As well as detailed case studies and customer success stories.
Okay.
So testimonials and UGC provide social proof.
Right. People seeing other people having success.
Exactly.
Okay.
Real people sharing their positive experiences.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It is. Yeah, and it builds trust very quickly.
Makes sense.
Case studies and customer stories.
Okay.
These offer more in-depth evidence of the results that you can deliver.
Right.
And they're often used for higher value services
Okay.
or in B2B contexts.
Okay.
So the key here is to keep testimonials authentic.
Right.
Really focused on the results.
Yeah.
And case studies should follow like a compelling story arc
Okay.
and really highlight the data.
Right. So you've got that evidence.
Yeah, you need the evidence.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then what about live video and webinars?
Yeah.
Where do those fit in?
So live video and webinars are interesting because they can kind of bridge the consideration and conversion stages.
Okay.
They create this sense of real-time connection
Yeah.
and urgency.
Right.
So they're really effective for product launches,
Okay.
special promotions,
Yep.
lead generation.
Makes sense.
You can have Q&As.
Right. Interact with the audience.
Exactly. And then behind the scenes and personal videos.
Okay.
Those are all about humanizing your brand
Okay.
and building that emotional connection.
Right.
So they might not lead to immediate sales,
Okay.
but they really foster loyalty,
Right.
which ultimately supports conversions in the long run.
Right. So it's all part of that bigger picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And these types of videos
Yeah.
do really well on platforms like Instagram and TikTok.
Okay. Where it's more personal.
Yeah, more personal, more authentic.
Okay. So to wrap up this whole conversion-focused video pyramid,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways? Like, what are the pro tips?
The pro tips. Okay, so the article really stresses the importance of a clear call to action.
Yeah. Tell people what to do.
Yeah, in every video.
Right.
Guide them. What do you want them to do next?
Yeah.
Visit your website, download something, subscribe, whatever it is.
Right. Give them that instruction.
Yeah, give them the instruction.
Okay. What else?
Captions and text overlays are really crucial
Okay. Why is that?
because a lot of people watch videos without sound,
Oh, that's true, especially on mobile.
especially on mobile. Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that your message is getting across, even if people aren't listening.
Right. Makes sense.
The article also talks about experimenting with different thumbnail images
Yeah.
and video titles,
Especially on YouTube.
especially on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that can have a huge impact on your click-through rate.
Makes sense.
And of course, we talked about this earlier. Repurposing is key.
Repurposing is king.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got all these different types of videos.
Yeah.
We know how to structure them for conversions. Now the article talks about focusing on one channel first. Why is that so important?
So the article points out that a really common mistake
Okay.
is trying to be everywhere at once.
Right.
and you kind of spread yourself too thin.
Yeah.
And you end up with mediocre content on multiple platforms.
Right. Instead of just being really good on one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea is to focus on one platform first.
Okay.
And really build a strong audience there.
Right.
Learn what works on that platform.
Yeah.
And create high quality videos without getting overwhelmed.
Right. So you're not spreading yourself too thin.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So how do you decide which platform to focus on?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Right. Because there's so many options.
There are.
Yeah.
So you need to consider a few things.
Okay.
First and foremost, your niche.
Okay.
Where does your audience hang out online?
Right. Where are they spending their time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Secondly, you want to think about your content style.
Okay.
Are you more suited to creating long-form educational content? Or are you better at, short, punchy, entertaining stuff?
Right.
And then ultimately, you need to consider which platform aligns best with your overall marketing goals.
Okay.
So the article breaks down 3 of the major platforms.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay. So we've got YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
Okay. The big 3.
The big 3.
So starting with YouTube.
YouTube. What are the advantages there?
So YouTube is the go-to platform for educational and marketing content.
Okay.
Especially long-form videos.
Right.
Things like tutorials, in-depth explanations, reviews.
Yeah.
And its key strengths are the longevity of the content.
Okay.
So, those videos can be found years down the line.
Right.
It's great for step-by-step guides.
Yeah.
And it has a well-established monetization ecosystem.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the article suggests that niches like online marketing, personal finance technology
Okay.
tend to do really well on YouTube.
Makes sense.
And content ideas, things like how-to guides.
Best tools roundups.
Yep.
Strategies for making money online.
Right.
So the recommended posting frequency on YouTube is generally 1 to 2 long-form videos per week.
Okay.
And then you can repurpose those into shorter clips.
Right.
And it seemed as a good starting point for educators, entrepreneurs who want to build authority,
Right.
and marketers who are aiming for that long-term searchable content.
Okay. So YouTube more for in-depth stuff.
Yeah.
What about TikTok?
So TikTok.
That's one that's blowing up.
It is, yeah.
Everyone's talking about it.
It's the place to be.
What are its strengths?
So TikTok is all about entertainment and virality.
Okay.
And it's really good at, those short-form videos.
Right.
Things that capture attention quickly.
Yeah.
And the creation tools are built right into the app.
Right. It's all very mobile friendly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So example, niches, comedy, motivational content, DIY.
Okay.
Content ideas, quick growth hacks, funny, relatable situations.
Yeah.
Interactive engagement tricks. The recommended posting frequency on TikTok is much higher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're looking at 3 to 5 videos per day.
Wow. Every day.
Every day.
Okay.
And you want to be leveraging trends, collaborating with other creators.
All right. So it's a much faster pace.
Much faster pace.
Okay.
And it's really good for creators, entertainers, brands who are looking for that fast reach.
Okay. And then finally, Instagram.
Instagram. What's the deal there?
So Instagram is best for lifestyle and visually driven brands.
Okay.
It's all about building a strong brand identity through visual storytelling.
Yeah.
And fostering direct interaction with your community.
Right, because there's that DM feature.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So key strengths, high quality visuals.
Yeah.
Both images and video.
Right.
Strong community building features.
Okay.
Things like stories, live streams.
Yeah.
And the ability to connect directly with your audience.
Right.
Example, niches, lifestyle to travel, fashion, food.
Yeah.
Business coaching.
Product-based businesses.
Okay.
So effective content ideas, behind-the-scenes glimpses.
Yep.
Personal growth stories.
Okay.
Timely updates shared as reels.
Right. Got to use those reels.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the suggested posting strategy is 1 to 2 reels per day.
Okay.
Consistent daily engagement through stories.
Right.
And then informative carousel posts.
Okay, so a mix of everything.
Yeah, mix of everything.
All right, so 3 very different platforms with different strengths, different approaches.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway is
Focus.
Focus.
Okay, go on.
Master it.
And then expand.
And then expand, yeah.
Okay, cool. Now, what about planning?
Planning.
Because all of this sounds like a lot
It is.
to keep track of.
Yeah.
So the article talks about content planning and storyboarding.
Yeah.
Why are those so important?
So content planning and storyboarding are super important
Okay.
because they're like the roadmap for your video strategy.
You know, without a plan, you're just kind of creating content randomly
Yeah.
and hoping for the best.
Yeah. And it might not be on brand.
Right.
It might not resonate with your audience.
Yeah.
It might not actually help you achieve your goals.
You need a plan.
You need a plan. Yeah.
Correct.
The article compares it to a video GPS.
I like that.
Yeah.